Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. We're just coming out of a closed session, so our meeting has already been called to order. So at this time, I'm going to just turn it over to the superintendent for a few comments. Didn't you?
Just wanted to share that with respect to the weather, that we're, for the members of the audience, we are monitoring the weather. We'll make a determination this evening about what we do for tomorrow, get a message out to the public, and then most likely end up monitoring again throughout the night just to make sure the forecast doesn't shift earlier. Based on the current track of the forecast, I believe we'll be in school, but I'm not sure we'll be there till 3 o'clock. So we'll be making that determination a little bit later. I'm going to turn it over to our student reps, I believe, next.
Good evening. My name is Sonia Manloy, and I'm a junior at High School North. North has been very busy this past month and plans to get even busier. The cast and crew of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat have been working hard for the past few weeks for their upcoming show. They will be performing on February 28th, March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Make sure you stop by one of these days to view their amazing performance. Additionally, this past weekend, the Model United Nations attended a conference in Washington, D.C. At this conference, many students received many awards. The Junior States of America Club will be attending their winter conference this weekend, also in Washington, D.C.
Hi, my name is Olivia Browndorf, and I am a junior at High School North. Student Council is kicking off one of the biggest events of the year, Mr. North, by hosting auditions this Thursday and Friday to pick our contestants in this year's event that will take place on April 13th. We are so excited to see what this year's seniors have come up with. Winter sports seasons are coming to an exciting end with both Jordan Brown and Jaden Sands scoring their 1,000th point in their basketball career these past few weeks. Along with that, track has had a very successful season as many of our students are going to be attending the Meet of Champions over this coming weekend. Overall, it's been a very successful month for all of our athletes, and we can't wait to see what this spring season brings starting March 1st. Thank you, and stay warm this week.
So good evening. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is working. All right. So good evening, everyone. Alex Vina couldn't make it here because she has rehearsal for a musical. So I'll be speaking for her instead. My name is Larry Jiang. I'm the Secretary of Student Council of High School South. So just some announcements. The South Winter Musical, Bring It On, is now in the midst of Text Week as they're preparing for the performances on Thursday, February 28th to Saturday, March 2nd. The show is at 7 o'clock on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with a 1 o'clock matinee on Saturday, not 7 o'clock. Tickets are now on sale to the public at www.souththeater.org. South's co-ed a cappella group, First Edition, won 3rd place at the ICHSA quarterfinals this past Saturday night. South Students Demand Actions Club just held a winter coat drive in which they donated coats to Homefront. This Thursday night, South's National Honor Society is hosting the annual South's Next Top Model Show, in which students from each grade compete for the grand title of South's Next Top Model. The proceeds from the show will go to Enable, an organization that aids individuals with disabilities. Lastly, South's Relay for Life Club is hosting a volleyball tournament this Saturday night at 7 o'clock p.m. And that's all for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now it's time for the first opportunity for public comment. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of the community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Shunyi Lin. I'm at 8 Harrison Lane in West Windsor. I just noticed in the last couple of months that I'm a parent of a child at Maurice Hawk, and I noticed that we stopped getting emails, or at least I stopped getting emails of the Board of Education, like meetings and the agendas. I feel like we used to get them like right before every meeting. And I was just wondering whether that was like a specific change, or because I know you guys are changing your communications and stuff. So I was just curious whether that was like a new change, or whether you guys are planning on starting to send that out to parents again in the future. So thank you.
I guess that will close the first opportunity for public comment.
To answer the question, because since the closed session's concluded, obviously there was we had a vacancy. It was 3 months before the first parent told us that the Friday messages sent out by our director of communication actually went out. So there were certain things that were done that were process-wise maybe unknown to those that remained behind. The agenda was put out on the Monday prior to the agenda. Once we learned it was put out on the Friday, that was rectified. We are in the midst of changing our communication structure with School Messenger. We actually just had a almost 3-hour meeting today with the PTA, PTSA leaders, where we talked about the new communication structure that will start starting in April, which gets to a weekly newsletter, personalized per building, and we'll have district information. Because it will go out most likely Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe on Tuesdays, we'll probably have to have a separate email because the board agenda item's not completed until Friday. So I would anticipate that in the future, we will, once that new process is put in place, we'll get back to the Friday communication.
Thank you.
What's going to happen between now and April?
It's on the district website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now it's time for our committee reports. We'll begin with administration and facilities.
Excuse me. The Administration and Facility Committee met last Tuesday. We went over the 3 policies: athletic competition, varsity letters for interscholastic and extracurricular activities, and procurement procedures for school nutrition programs. The athletic and the varsity letters are on the agenda for first readings, and the procurement procedures are on for a second reading. We had an update on the safety and security construction. The wiring for cameras, strobes, phones, and message boards continue throughout the district. Right now, the 2 vendors, Matrix and Millennium, are working at Maurice Hawk and Town Center. They'll be there for the next 3 weeks. We've also received an update on the hiring of additional Class 3 officers. The Plainsboro Police Department will add 3 officers. 2 will be assigned to High School North and 1 to Community. West Windsor is also hiring an additional officer who will be assigned to Grover. We got updates on the referendum projects. The committee was informed that the steel has been erected at Town Center and Maurice Hawk Elementary Schools. Roofs are being added right now with the hope that the buildings can be enclosed shortly and work can begin on the interior of the building. The architectural planning continues for the 2 middle schools, Grover and Community, to develop the drawings for bidding for the referendum projects. And the district and building administrators are continuing to meet with the architect to work out the plans for that. The equity planning team recently distributed a survey to gather data which will be used to create a draft district equity vision statement. The team will continue to engage district staff in building a foundation to guide equity work in our schools. Our next meeting will be March 12th. Any questions?
Madam President, may I make a statement regarding Class 3 officers?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you. I want to read a statement since we talked about Class 3 officers actually in our committee meeting. And as well, this is coming personally from myself. For the last 11 months, I've had countless conversations about Class 3 officers with residents of West Windsor-Plainsboro. Some have opposed, but a plethora have been in complete favor and agreement with the WWP School District having Class 3 officers. Many people know my place of business and the thousands and thousands of West Windsor-Plainsboro parents, kids, and families who frequent my club and complex each year. I do not live on social media platforms each and every day. I speak and interact with the incredible and awesome parents, kids, families of our school district daily. Like I said, I've spoken with many people in favor and those in opposition of Class 3. One instance last summer that I would like to address is a gentleman named to remain withheld who came up to me at a community event and said, I quote, "Martin, how could you vote for Class 3 officers? If something happens, they will come after your black kids first." This gentleman was Caucasian and tried to insinuate that Class 3 officers would only attack African-American kids on a daily basis. Because of his misinformed and terrible statement made with two of my children, 10-year-old and 7-year-old at the time standing right next to me, I ended that conversation very fast and went on to enjoy this community event I was partaking in. This is just one conversation. In the interim of time, I cannot address the others. But there have been many more that have sent me emails and had face-to-face conversations with me making incredibly false, misinformed statements of untruth just because they do not want Class 3 officers in our school. Just because they want to paint a narrative that is piggybacking off of the police brutality narrative striking this nation for the past few years. So, I personally would like to take it to that point. Many have sent me articles about police brutality of African Americans in Chicago, LA, Seattle, Houston, Florida, New York City, etc. West Windsor-Plainsboro are not those cities. Secondly, many of the oppositionists to Class 3 who address me face-to-face or via email continue to send me African American police statistics and articles as if I have no idea about the treatment of African Americans in this country historically by police or anyone else. As if I have no idea of the African American plight that has plagued this nation for 400 plus years. As if I have never been through racism, bigotry, or discrimination. I have never seen any of the oppositionists of Class 3 officers here in our community at African American Parent Support Group meetings, AAPSG community events, or helping in any way to make sure that there's fair and equal treatment of African American, Indian, or Chinese kids in this district or people of color. I've seen Joy Horton, who is present now, president of AAPSG at all of our school board meetings, at many of the community events in Plainsboro and West Windsor, Latoya Edwards, Cornell Edmonds, Barbara Edmonds, Tiffany Cummings, Terry Cummings, Leroy Gill, Karen Delk, Gerald Delk, Les Miller, Savoy Dory, Diane Saccone, and many others throughout the years advocate for the African American and people of color students in this district. The ones who send me emails and address me negatively continuously for the last 11 months. I've only heard their concern about African American kids in this district when the thought of having Class 3 officers was announced. Were they trying to use African American kids as pawns for their narrative since they were adamantly against Class 3 officers already? I'm not sure, but it seems to be very disingenuous to all of a sudden care so much about African American kids in our district when they had never shown any concern for the well-being of these kids in the past. But since I was sent statistics about the plight people of color have lived through over the years statistically, let me share personally something very real. I've been pulled over 16 times in my life. I will say this again, I've been pulled over 16 times and have only received one ticket. I've been racially profiled 13 times, and 2 times I was pulled over for laughing. Yes, that was the reason the police gave us. We were laughing. These instances took place in Texas, Georgia, Florida, New Jersey, and New York. Secondly, I've been called the N-word hundreds of times in my life, once during a collegiate basketball game on the court in 1994. Yes, 1994, not 1954. Another time in college, I was called the N-word while my team was coming out of the tunnel to enter the arena. This is a very famous and well-known athletic Division I university, but I will refrain from disclosing the school's name at this time. Plus, 8 of the 12 players on this particular university team we're playing against were African American. In the workplace, and particularly corporate America, I've been looked over and discriminated against several times due to the color of my skin. I've been intentionally removed from being promoted at several jobs I've held in the past due to the color of my skin. My parents, both retired school teachers who grew up in Georgia and South Carolina during their 30s, 40s, and 50s. My father in 1955 was the 10th leading scorer in the United States in college basketball at a small African American college. He was not given the opportunity to play in the NBA strictly because of the color of his skin. My grandfather on my mother's side of the family was a key advocate of the early days of the civil rights movement, fighting injustice and inequality on the front line in South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. While the oppositionists to Class 3 in our community talk about kids being exposed to officers carrying weapons, my mother and her cousins have told me realistic stories of walking to school in South Carolina as a child and seeing kids in trees. Not for fun, but in trees. So when the oppositionists of Class 3 want to tell me, an African American, about what I should be worried about, they clearly have no idea what it is to be an African American in this country and have not lived in my shoes. With all that I have said, and once again in the interim of time, I have made this very short, I still do not play the victim card, nor the race card, but I will always stand up for just, right, and integrity-filled decisions. My decision to vote for Class 3 was justified and right, plain and simple. With all that I've said and all the things that I and thousands of African Americans have gone through, wouldn't you think that I would be afraid or fearful of the police? But I am not. In the same manner that I fight against racism, bigotry, and stereotyping against African Americans my entire life, wouldn't it be wise to then fight for the good police officers out here, the good policemen and women who are true fabric of this community? Our community has great and awesome police officers. This is not Chicago, LA, or any of the other police department cases that people have sent emails to me personally. This is West Windsor and Plainsboro, and we need to pull together and support those who are working hard for our community, for our families, and for our kids. Lastly, after all the things I've gone through with police officers in other states and municipalities, why did my 8-year-old at Dutch Neck, when asked what he thinks about Officer Liz and police at Dutch Neck and Sporting Events, say, "It's fine to me, Daddy. I like Officer Liz. She's very, very nice." I did not fearmonger our child. I did not paint a picture of supreme negativity against police officers in the public or schools. I did not paint a picture of police harming children or fill our children with bigotry against a group of people. But with my experience, I could have, but chose to think wisely, chose to teach my children about life, about truth, about the good in people, chose to fill our children with positivity, not negativity. The same thing I've had to fight against every day of my life. Will I stand against any harm and wrongdoing by police officers or people of power? Absolutely, yes. But I will not condemn every police officer in this country or Class 3 officer for doing harm to others either. This is not fair to the good, hardworking individuals who truly care about their communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Morton. Curriculum?
Oh, okay. Right. So the Curriculum Committee met on February 12th. The committee reviewed the curriculum documents for the revised curricula for World History ESL, American Studies 1 ESL, and American Studies 2 ESL, and the committee recommends approval of these revised curricula. The committee recommends approval of the purchase of the online platform Apex Learning to host the Financial Literacy Summer Course at a cost not to exceed $125 per student for the 2019 Financial Literacy Summer Course for high school students. The committee also recommends approval of the agreement of the first year of a 5-year shared service agreement between West Windsor Township and the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District for cable television. The committee recommends approval of the expenditures for 2 New Jersey non-public school technology initiatives for the fiscal year 2019 for the French American School and the Montessori Corner. The committee recommends acceptance of a Star Talk grant in the amount of $78,951 for elementary Hindi and Urdu summer immersion camp, grades 3 to 5, for the period of March 2019 through March 2020. The committee also recommends approval of a consultant to present a 1-day training for performing arts staff on March 13th, 2019 at a cost not to exceed $900. And the committee recommends approval of the following professional development travel opportunities: 9 teachers to attend the Quest 2019 Scholars Program offered through Princeton University Teacher Prep at Princeton University from July 8th through July 12th this year, or July 15th through July 18th at a total cost not to exceed $250 per person, no travel included. 1 teacher to attend a crash course in the units of study in phonics in Somerset, New Jersey on February 27th at a cost not to exceed $170.37. 1 teacher to attend a 1-week Teachers College Summer Institute at Columbia University from June 24th to June 28th, or from August 5th to August 9th of this year at a cost of $850 plus travel. The committee also recommends approval of the community middle school overnight field trip for outdoor education to Camp Canadensis in Canadensis, Pennsylvania from June 5th to the 7th, and the trip is approximately $225 per student. Committee will next meet on March 12th.
Are there any questions for curriculum? Finance?
The Finance Committee met by conference call on February 12th. We started with the audit.
Staff informed the committee that the state did deliver the necessary information for the GASB 75 requirements. The audit report is now complete and will be on the agenda for the February 19th board meeting for approval. For that meeting, there is also an item for a change order for $1,732.50 for paving work at CMS this summer. Also on the agenda is closing out 2 old rod grants. The district will receive approximately $122,000 from the state for closing out these grants. Staff reported that this year's budget is tracking similarly to last year's budget at this time. For the 2019-20 budget, the governor's address will be on March 5th. This means that state aid numbers should be released on March 7th. Administration and staff have been meeting to discuss budget issues. There will be a brief budget presentation on February 19th and a budget retreat maybe tomorrow or maybe next week. Staff also updated the committee on capital projects, as was mentioned already by a committee. The Advocate December inspection report shows some improvement, with 4 of 10 schools scoring a 90% or above. There are staffing issues, including at the management level, that our Director of Facilities is working on with Aramark. For Sodexo, the food service operations are showing improvement with the collaboration between Sodexo and district management. Financially, the bottom line is improving as the operation is in the black at this time of year for the first time in several years. This is due to centralized oversight of purchasing at the individual schools. The State Department of Agriculture recently performed an audit of operations and paperwork. The auditor was impressed and commended the district. For investment of bond proceeds, an RFP was advertised. Staff have interviewed the top 2 responders and have selected NJARM. The staff is working on filling the comptroller vacancy. Interviews were to have started, however, due to the weather, they had to be rescheduled. There are several promising applicants. For other business on the ESIP, a walkthrough of facilities occurred last week as scheduled. Only one company chose to participate. Next meeting, March 12th.
Thank you. Were there any questions? All right, we're going to move on to the voting portion of our meeting. Administration, we have items 1 through 7. Can I get a motion, please? Tony and Martin. Are there any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Flores.
Wait, I have a question.
There was a question?
Wait, we're voting on the medical exam one. Did you correct that thing? It will be corrected. Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify that, that's respect to the feedback that was received regarding the first reading. So when we have first readings for public policy, all policies regulations have 2 readings. So feedback came in today or yesterday regarding 2 of the first reading policies. So we'll incorporate that feedback into the discussion on March 12th. So this will not show up for a second reading on March 5th because the committee needs to discuss it on March 12th. It would then appear as a second reading unless it's a significant substantial change on the 22nd of March.
We're voting to approve the medical exam one? Or is that one going back to committee too?
No, that's
They're both first reading.
No,
no, that was a second
the
reading.
regulations.
Right. No, it was. If I remember, no.
The regulation is the second reading.
Medical.
What was?
Second reading.
Okay, the email I received was about the varsity letter and athletic
Oh,
competition. I didn't see something
There
on.
was a conflict between the policy and the regulation
Right.
on it, and we're going to, if I remember right,
Right.
correct the regulation.
Policy
Policies and
on athletic commission.
Yeah.
2431.
That's medical examiner.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I just want to make sure we're clear what we're actually.
No.
This is
The regulation is different than what.
Yeah.
The regulation, the regulation here puts with the policy on athletic competition. There's a
Got it.
90-day,
Right.
Oh, they should be 60.
it should be 60, so we're going to correct the
Right.
regulation.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So
Just
the-
want to make sure we're all
the
clear.
policy said 60 days. The regulation said 90 days, and we're going to update it so that It's consistent in both places, and it is 60 days.
Correct. Okay. Very good.
So we're voting on it with that one change that it's 60
Correct.
days.
Thank you. I just want to make sure we're all
Okay,
clear.
that's-
All right. Thank you. Sorry for that.
No, thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Ms. Hertz. Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug. Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Case.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Curriculum, we have 7 items. In items 1 to 7, can I get a motion, please? Dana and Carol, are there any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Hertz. Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug. Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang.
Yes.
Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Case.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I please get a motion on the finance items 1 to 14? Louisa and Taylor, are there any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug. Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang. Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Ms. Hertz. Ms. Juliana. And Ms. Case.
Yes. Yep. At this time, I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Russo for our first budget presentation.
I was kind of hoping I didn't have to, the way the meeting was going. Okay, welcome everyone tonight. This is kind of a brief presentation this evening. We planned on having we still may have our retreat tomorrow night, in which we dig into more detail moving forward. There's some general information tonight, but it's one of the first budget presentations, at least of the new year. We did have one in December, but moving forward. So hold on, it's an exciting ride. So you have the mission statement. We're building upon tradition of excellence. We empower all learners to thoughtfully contribute to the world. Strategic goals. Every individual has intrinsic worth, and to embrace diversity empowers the community, and therefore we have. Let me say. We have goal 1, understanding that all students have diverse needs, backgrounds, and approaches to learning. We integrate tools and structures to appropriately challenge, enable students to realize their full potential. You guys have seen these. Realize for the sake of a presentation, when this gets posted, something that the community that may not know these or may not have seen these gets to see them. So that's why they show up in every presentation, and that we take them seriously as we're building a budget and considering all our actions during the year. Number 2, embracing a rapidly changing world will empower learners to assume active roles in their communities and face global challenges. Number 3, recognizing that children need to balance physical, social, and emotional academic needs, and will maintain a supportive culture as such. What's a budget? A budget's a planning tool. It has to consider contingencies. It has to manage risk. It must be fiscally responsible. It's a reflection of the community's values, and it must consider safeguards and buffers. The budget process pretty much starts the day, like when this budget gets approved April 20th, we'll already start thinking of next year's. What needs to be in it? Where will the revenues come from? What do the appropriations look like? And though it's not discussed every discussion, we'll preliminarily discuss comments, just ideas. Finance committee, in the committee pieces will be brought up during the year. The important numbers on this is March 5th is the governor's budget address. As you've heard, March 19th will be the adoption of the budget, in which we send it to the county office for their review. The 20th it's due. We'll approve it on the 19th. And April 30th will be the final shot at the budget, given that the fact that the state actually passes their budget. It'll be our final shot of it on April 30, in which we adopt it. It's over here. Big picture topics, special services is always a topic. Healthcare is always a concern. Capital projects, technology, staffing needs, transportation, and salary increases. Always stressors on the budget. Unknown this year is state aid. Will it be flat? Will it go back to last year's amount? Or will S2, will they continue to fund S2? And then, therefore, we would be entitled to a little additional aid because currently we're underfunded from the state. And we'll have a health care benefit increase in January of 2020, which will come after a 15-month rate lock and with a new company. So we'll see. There are two of the challenges. The third is prescription increases. Our utilization of our prescription carrier right now is 100%, give or take a point or two. But it's almost 100%. What that means is the premiums we pay and the payments they're making on behalf of our employees are pretty much 100%. That's not in the benefit of the insurance company. There's usually a margin in there because they have administrative costs and they want to make a profit. So our experience is running quite high right now. However, we'll see how things work out when the renewals come in, which will be in a couple months. Accolades. We have 10 consecutive years of the Certificate of Excellence, which is from the ASBO International. It's a process that there's a good number of schools in New Jersey, maybe a tenth of them that receive this award, apply and get this accolade. Meritorious Budget Award, it's our 5th year. We're one of maybe 5 in the state that get this. Both high schools are blue ribbon schools. We're ranked 3rd in niche.com. K-12, ranked 3rd. Over 50% of our teachers hold advanced degrees. And then you see our Merit Scholars, our national Merit Scholars letter, I was going to say commendation. Mm-hmm. And then you see various awards. Budget history. The tax levy over the last 5 years has averaged 2.2%. The local tax levy represents 90% of the district's operating budget. And then, we have other sources of revenue, state aid, and capital reserve contributions. And that bullet's in there just because of that number includes those, the difference between taxes and the budget. It's from state aid and reserve contributions. Some rankings from niche. You see high school rankings, WWP South and North rate favorably with Princeton, Montgomery, and Hopewell Valley. We're ranked higher than all of them. Our math scores are very competitive. Our reading proficiencies, it's in the mix. SATs are the highest. Student-teacher ratio is, South is higher than the others, and North is in the ballpark. Cost per student, you notice we're the lowest of those districts, and the average teacher salary we're in the ballpark. Actual per pupil cost, what this means, it's an audited number, so that's why you see 16-17 is the last one. But notice over time, from 02-03 to 16-17, the change, you see Princeton, Hopewell Valley, Montgomery. Notice where they went from and where they ended up, and notice where we started and where we ended up. Our delta is quite a bit less than the other districts. Taxpayers Guide to Educational Spending. This is a state document. The district has no input in this other than the state takes the district's audits and compiles information and compares them to districts of similar size in the state. So what do we have? Districts greater than 3,500 pupils. Notice, again, the cost per pupil, lowest. Student-teacher ratio, district-wide, competitive, that's actually the highest. Student administration ratio, by far the highest. Median teacher pay in the ballpark, and facility per pupil, that means facility and operations cost, the lowest in this comparison. Referendum projects, part of this also, again, it's going to be posted online. It's an update of where we stand with the referendum projects. So it's passed. What we're working on, basically, this is, we're reviewing the scope of the next couple slides will be the review of the project, scope of work, logistical roles and responsibilities of each of those members, tentative bid packages and schedules, and review of communication on referendum updates. And you see there's project description in the left column and the location where the work is happening in the right column. Again, and this will be posted as you've seen on the website. We have 1 million postings already, but this will be another consolidated version, even shorter than the last. Immediate focus, we've already started, we've had several meetings regarding fire alarms. We, meaning the administration and the designers, the engineers and architects, and the construction managers and staff and supervisors. Fire alarms, projects district-wide, generators in almost every building that doesn't have them now. HVAC projects at High School North and Millstone River. Community Middle School expansion and Grover Middle School expansion. We've had quite lengthy meetings regarding these areas, and we're 2 or 3 meetings in with 2 or 3 versions of what we're working on. What's taking place the first 2-3 months is the design and refinement process. That's where we are now. These are the meetings that we're going over with the professionals. I should also say and maintenance is involved in them as well. Multiple meetings with all pertinent personnel, reviewing options, layouts, and that will, from those meetings, we'll end up with a final design. During this phase, we'll develop and refine the original DOE schematic drawings, like this one, to arrive at the final desired room layout. That means is we'll come up with a design. The architects will draw it correctly instead of scribbling it on onion paper, and then it'll be sent to the DOE for approval. Preparation of construction documents, time frames, 5 months. The architects and consultants will translate the design into drawings and technical documents. Well, obviously this takes a while. Something we'll have with the HVAC units, there'll be a long lead time. That's High School North and Millstone River, even though they're the first projects to start. Not only do you have up to 5 months, let's say, in design, then once you get a design, then it goes to bid, and then the contractor has to order the equipment. There's a long lead time, could be up to let's say up to 6 months to a year for lead time for manufacturing, just to get the equipment in. Then you're looking at what time of the year are we ready to start? Is this a 3-year summer project? Is this an intrusion project during the school year? So there's much more to come on the HVAC units, but the lead time to even get to the starting point, at least you're pushing a year realistically. Preparation of technical documents, drafting plans and details, meetings. Again, it's a lot of meetings. If I say it again, it's meetings. Materials and system selections, agencies and applications. We have to go before various boards. The DOE has to approve them. School Development Authority has to approve all the plans. Realize there's been a passing of quite a few referenda in the state for facilities. So we're ahead of the curve right now if we keep things moving, because we passed, some projects were passed in September, more were passed in November, and then December and January, even more projects were passed. So we are somewhat ahead of the curve with that respect if we stay on schedule and submittal of documents. And again, you're picking fit and finishes, you're picking materials, you're picking structures, you're picking layouts of rooms, those kind of things. And then again during the second phase, highly developed construction drawings and technical documentation. Notice they went from a higher, less detail to more detail in the second phase. In phase 3, you have bid preparation, pre-bid, and the bidding progress process. So at this point, several months out, so now we're like 7 months out, we'll be in the bidding, we'll be in the bidding phase. Again, heavy coordination with the construction manager, project, temporary conditions and phasing plan, detailed projects, schedules and milestones, quality control review, alternate bids, value engineering, and then meetings with officials and bid schedules and advertisements, meaning a lot goes into when do you want to be in the building, and then building a schedule backwards on how you get to that end document. A lot goes into that. And that's the final slide. Any questions of me while I stand here?
Where will this be on the website?
Wherever we post the presentations and the board stuff. So
Underneath the board meetings, there's something on backup material, and for the budget, and budget will go there. And there's usually another tab on budget, and it will go. We'll make sure it's in both spots. I already have a note to give it to Jerry for tomorrow, so it gets posted.
Okay, anything?
Thank you, Dr. Russo. All right, we're going to move on. Next on our agenda, we need to get a motion on personnel items 1 and 2, plus our blue and green addendum. Can I get a motion on that? Rachel and Taylor. Are there any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang.
Yes.
Mr. Flares.
Yes.
Ms. Hertz. Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Case.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd just like to take a minute to acknowledge some retirements. Jerry Barber, the school nurse at Dutch Neck School, is retiring after 14 years in the district. Holly Crochetier, a science teacher at High School North, retiring after 17 and a half years in the district. Michael Courtney, media specialist at High School North, retiring after 28 years in the district. And Jeff Grable, a teacher at Dutch Neck School, retiring after 19 years at the district. And this tells me that my son was in 3rd grade 19 years ago because he was in Mr. Grable's class the very first year he taught. So I wish them all well in their retirement, and thank you for their dedication and service to our school district. Next, I need a motion to approve the minutes. Louisa and Carol? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Are there any liaison reports? New business? Second opportunity for public comment. 15 minutes will be provided at the end of the meeting for public comment. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer, and this public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes.
Joy Horton, 10 Hopkins Court in Plainsboro, New Jersey. First of all, I want to thank the West Windsor-Plainsboro Education Association, Bruce, and also Dr. Carla Royster for the wonderful Black History Month Museum that was at High School South. I thought it was a wonderful opportunity for the public to come out and see it, and also for the students to, learn some things. And not only the students, but also, just parents and people in the district. I also, while we were there, there was an issue with no heat in the media center. So I was trying to find out whether or not that was on the referendum as far as a fix for, you're shaking your head. Okay, yeah. It was freezing. It was 20 degrees outside. I had my coat on the whole time, right? On that Saturday, it was just freezing in there. So I just wanted to mention that we probably need to address the heating issue at the media center there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn? Louisa and Taylor, all those in favor? Aye. Thanks for coming out tonight. Stay safe tomorrow.